Hello everyone and welcome to Sum, Count, and Beyond, the Spreadsheet Source, Session 4. Today we will be covering logical comparisons. In the About section of our channel and in our banner image you will see a link to a Google Drive folder that has the spreadsheets from all of the sessions. Each file will have at least 2 tabs, Try It Yourself, and Solution. We would encourage you to have your own sheet open or download the file and follow along as we go through our examples together. Before we jump in, don't forget to give us a like and subscribe to our channel. Let's get to it. Today, we will be using if to see if a condition is true or false, and then have Excel return a value based on that. We are also going to introduce the and, or, and not functions. In words, the if statement is equals if, open parentheses, this condition is met, comma, then do this, comma, if not, do this, close parentheses. The condition you set up in the first part of the if statement will always evaluate to a Boolean, meaning it'll be either true or false. If the condition is true, the result from the middle section is returned. If the condition is false, the value from the third section will be returned. We will be breaking our usual rule of no hard coding, but only for the true-false return values. So download and open up the 04.logicalcomparisons file and go to cell F4. Once you're in cell F4, click the FX icon next to the formula bar to open up the Formula Builder. The Formula Builder is a very useful tool, especially when learning new functions. The screens after clicking are slightly different between Excel for Mac and Excel for PC, but the general concept holds. Find the formula you are looking for, and then the Formula Builder will help you put the function together. So we're going to go over to the search bar here. We're going to type if, and you'll see that it filters for anything that says if, and then you can either double click this or click Insert Function down here. And you'll notice on the bottom that it gives a brief description of the formula and then the syntax as well. So let's go to Insert our function. And you'll see that the different arguments that you have to enter are all presented here in 3 different boxes. So first we're going to put in the logical test, which is going to be D4 equal sign E4. And you'll see that as you're going through it, you'll start to get values above the entry bars. And again, this is one of the really nice things about Formula Builder is you can kind of see what you're doing as you go through it. So next we're going to put in the true value, so the value that we want to return if the condition is true. And this can either be a text or a number value. So if you do a number, you can do 0, 1, whatever number you choose, or you can put in text. Now when you put in text, you're going to want to put quotes around it, because if you don't put quotes around it, you'll see you get this #name ? Error, which means that Excel doesn't understand what you're trying to do. So if you put quotes around it, you'll see that the value if true is match. And then we'll go down to the value of false, and we're going to put quotes, does not match. And then when you're done, click done. And if we go to cell F4, we'll see that we are populated with does not match. So green does not equal blue, so we get that does not match error. Now if we were to switch D4 to be blue, we would see match. And the other thing to note is you can mix text and number return values. So let's say you wanted it to be match if the condition is true and 0 if the condition is false. You would just change that to 0. And if we change D4 back to green, we see that it returns 0 here. Other cool trick I want to show you right now in Excel is one of our shortcuts. And so if you do Command Z on your Mac or Control Z on your PC, you can undo the change you just made. So we'll do that. And so now we're back to match because we took away green and replaced it with blue. Okay, we're going to close the Formula Builder right now, and we're going to go on to the AND function. So the AND function evaluates one or more conditions at the same time. If all the conditions are true, the AND function returns the Boolean value true, and if not, it will return the value false. So in cell F5, we're going to do equals and open parentheses, B5 equals C5, comma, D5 equals E5. Close our parentheses and then hit return or enter on your keyboard. And we see false. So why are we getting the false value? Well, if we go back to our formula, again, we're using the AND function, so both conditions have to be true. So we'll look at our first one, B5 equals C5. Well, 11 does not equal 10, so that would return a false. And then D5 equals E5, 9 equals 9, so that returns true. But because both are not true, that's why we're getting the false value. So if we go into C5 and we change that to 11, for example, we see that F5 is now true. Okay, next we're going to go to F6 and we're going to try out the OR function. So the OR function is similar to AND in the sense that it evaluates one or more conditions at the same time. But for the OR function, if any of the conditions are true, the function returns the Boolean value true, and if not, it will return the value false. So let's go into cell F5 and have it read equal or B6 equals C6, comma, D6 equal E6. Close our parentheses, return or enter on your keyboard, and we see that it's false. So why is it false? So let's again go back into the formula. So first we're checking if B6 equals C6, and April 30th, 2020 is not equal to April 30th, 2021, so that's false. And green does not equal red, so that's also false. So if we wanted to make that be true, we could go into D6, change D6 to red, and then it would evaluate to true. So we'll leave that as it is. So next we're going to go to F7 and we're going to try the NOT function. So the NOT function is interesting in that it returns the opposite of whatever the Boolean value is. So let's do a quick example here. We'll do equals NOT, open parentheses, D7 equals E7, and we'll close the parentheses. And we see the value true. Now, green does not equal blue, so that Boolean would evaluate to false. But because we have the NOT function here, it's giving us the value true. Finally, we're going to put this all together with three different formulas. And so with many functions in Excel or Google Sheets, you can insert functions into other functions. So in cell F8, we're going to do equal sign, if, open parentheses, and, open parentheses, B8 equals C8, comma, D8 equals E8. And if you look below here, you'll see that the function is kind of filling itself out and showing you what the syntax is. This is a really helpful tool, especially as you get more complicated formulas, because you know where you are in the formula. So if I close this parentheses, you'll see that there's a parentheses here that's red and a parentheses here that's red. And so again, just helps you be a little bit cleaner and kind of know where you are. And you'll also notice that once we close this parentheses, we're now out of the AND function and back into the if. So we're going to put a comma after that closed parentheses. And if it's true, we want to say both match, and then put that in quotes, and then comma, and we'll make this at least one doesn't match. Close our quote, close our parentheses. And so you'll see that the return value is cut off here. And why that is because your column is too narrow. And there's two different ways, at least two different ways, to go ahead and expand that column. So both involve going up to the column letters. And if you're on the border of F and G, you'll see that there's a bar with an arrow on top of it. And so if you click and hold, you can drag the column width to fit the text or the number value that's in that cell. And then we'll do Command Z or Control Z and undo that to put it back to the size it was. Or we're going to go back up to the column letters. We see that line with the arrows, and if you double click, it'll auto fit. And this works on rows as well, if you want to auto fit the row or resize the row. Okay, next we're going to combine if and or. So in cell F9, we're going to do equals if, open parentheses, or, and we're going to do B9 greater than sign, equal sign, C9, comma, D9 equals E9, close our parentheses and end the or portion of our formula. Then we're going to put a comma in, and we're going to say at least one match, close our quote there, comma, open quote, no matches. Then we're going to close the quote, close the parentheses to end the formula, enter a return on your keyboard, and we see at least one match. So if we go back to our formula, B9 greater than or equal to C9, so 10 equals 10, so that returns a true. Now D9 equals E9, 11 does not equal 12, but because at least one value is true, it takes us to the at least one match true portion of the if statement. So if we wanted to return the false value, we can make this 9, and then we get no matches. Okay, finally, we're going to look at what's called a nested if statement. So with the if statement, you can do kind of multiple iterations or evaluations, and we're going to go into that right now. So what we're going to do is we're going to look at these 4 cells right here, and we're going to have a couple different comparisons that we're going to look at. So let's start with equals if, then we're going to open our parentheses, and we're going to put an and in there. So we're going to say if and then we're going to say if B10 equals C10, comma, D10 equals E10, and we're going to close off our and statement, and we want to return the value, open quote, numbers and colors match. We're going to close our quote, and then instead of passing through a false value, what we're going to do is we're going to put comma, and then we're going to put another if statement in. So we're going to say if, open parentheses, and we're going to do B10 equals C10. Then we want to return the text value numbers match, close our quote off, comma, and now we're going to put in another if statement. And you can do this as many times as you want. If you put in too many if statements, it might get a little bit crazy, but we're going to do another if statement here. We're going to do if, open parentheses, D10 equals E10. Our true value is going to be colors match. Then our false value is going to be no matches. And this false value is going to be the ultimate false value. So now we're going to close off our quotations or our parentheses, and we see that we have the different colors that show up. So we have purple, red, and then black. And we hit enter, and we see that numbers and colors match. So basically the first condition here was satisfied. So now let's play around with this a little bit. So let's go to B10 and make B10 12. So now our numbers don't match, but our colors do. So if we look at our formula here, B10 equals C10, that's false. So it's going to flip us to this second condition. B10 equals C10, that's also false again. So it's going to flip us to this third condition. D10 equals E10, the colors match. Therefore, we return the true value of colors match. So now if we make that blue, then we get no matches. So B10 and C10 are not equal, D10 and E10 are not equal. And so, by definition, these are not going to be, this is not going to be true, this is not going to be true, and it flips us to no matches. And then if we do 11 here, do green, back to numbers and colors match, everything matches. And then if we do 12 here, we see colors match. And we'll get this to be numbers match by doing blue in D10 and then having B and C10 equal each other. So this is a little bit more on the complicated side, but just more of really a proof of concept that you can combine a lot of these functions together and eventually do some pretty powerful stuff. So well done, everyone. You just learned how to do logical functions. Now, while the examples we provided today are relatively straightforward, our hope is that you can use these building blocks as we continue to use more advanced formulas. So before wrapping up, we did want to touch on the if-error function. And you might have seen that earlier on when we were looking at the formula builder. And if-error is really useful, but it can be dangerous to use right away because the error could actually be a formula error as opposed to a value not being returned. So to sum everything up, the logical functions are extremely useful when you are trying to compare values or test conditions. You can count on this session to help you understand how the different logical functions work and examples of how they can be combined. And let's keep taking your spreadsheet knowledge beyond what you thought was possible.